Last night, Tayker Karlson, whom some dislike for his attitude toward Putin, and others for his shows related to Israel. But who gathers an audience of hundreds of thousands in the United States alone and millions of viewers around the world. Tayker has connections with all the agencies and ministries in the United States. And thousands of people, literally thousands, send him information, observations, all sorts of surprises. He has a team that sorts through all of this. So, yesterday he published the following message from the FBI. Actually, it was the day before yesterday. So the day before yesterday, the FBI told us about, well, Thomas Kruks. This, let me remind you, is the man who attempted murder and shot from the roof, and hit President Trump in the ear. So, Thomas Kruks had no presence on the internet. The FBI is lying to us. I have copies of his remarks. The question is, why are they lying to us? And then he wrote, I'll tell you everything tomorrow, or I'll explain everything tomorrow. And tomorrow, which is now yesterday, from my point of view, is today. So that's how it is. And in a manner, by the way, typical of many bloggers, he's not exactly lying, but he's not telling the whole truth, right? We're talking about the FBI, mostly before Trump, not the Trump-era FBI, although that too. I'll explain what he's accusing them of, but mainly, let's say, the FBI under Trump wasn't mentioned anymore. That there is no presence. So Kruks, his name is Thomas Kruks. Kruks has no presence on the internet. This matter, so to speak, is a matter from the previous leadership. Sorry, they said that the person who attempted to assassinate the president has nothing on the internet, absolutely nothing. Why? That's what they said. That's a different matter. And Tayker creates the impression that it's the FBI. Kashyap Patella and Dana Banjana are hiding something for some reason, like, well, let's see what happens next. And things aren't clear with them either. And at the end, I'll analyze this and try to explain what's unclear about them, right? So, as promised, Tayker published his thoughts. But before that, I'll still play Benny Johnson, so that we can once again very clearly and precisely repeat everything we knew up until then before Tayker. Everything we knew about this assassination attempt, about this young man, about his shooting, so to speak, and about everything that happened that day in Arizona, in Butler.
So let me quickly explain how we got to the point where Tayker Karlson did this report. Because Tayker has access to all the comments of Matthew Thomas Kruks and some metadata from his Google Drive. So all his comments on various social media platforms, which really give an idea of who Thomas Kruks was, and something very dark. What happened to him? Then what Tayker does is kind of expose the federal FBI investigators for hiding so much of this. Because the FBI is now sitting on a mountain of data from other accounts that were encrypted or deleted, like Thomas Kruks' Snapchat. It's like there's nothing there, nothing available. There was a complete wipe, which is extremely strange both digitally and physically. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's start with where we were before this report appeared, so we can move on to the new revelations, accusations, and questions from Tayker.
So,
where were we? Where were we before this moment? And do we have any footage from our documentary there? Maybe you can just show it, just make it as a separate segment. Where were we before this moment? And partly thanks to you chat, we love you. We thank you for giving us the strength and opportunity to conduct investigations like this. A week after President Trump was shot in the head and Cory Comparatori died, and after shootings of other members of the Make America Great Again movement, we were able to get up on the roof in Butler and conduct our own investigation. We brought our cameras to Butler and saw something absolutely and completely terrifying. We didn't see anything, you understand. We were there for a week after that, and we didn't see anything. I was standing. You could still see blood stains all over the roof from Thomas Kruks' brains. Of course, we went there with Navy SEALs and military veterans who had been on the battlefields. Corey Mills and Ellie Green are two members of Congress. We conducted a full investigation, but everything was gone. Now I know the murder locations. Why do I know them? Because I lived in Washington, District of Columbia, the murder capital of America, during the worst murder spike in Washington's history. And I literally witnessed the murder. I heard them. They're on my camera, the ring on my block, and I saw the police response to them. What did the police do in these murders, which were just like gang killings, right? Junkies, addicts, and gangsters shot at each other while police blocked off the area for days. For an ordinary junkie, an ordinary addict, I mean, whatever you want. All human life is precious. That's what's so important for Christians. We are all created in the image of God. I'm not saying someone's life is worth more. I'm speaking from a law enforcement perspective. Obviously, a shot to the president's head deserves an absolute and complete lockdown.
Do you understand what he's saying? When someone is killed on the street like a drug dealer, they block off the street for a day, sometimes for several days. The street, not a rooftop or somewhere out of the way where it doesn't bother anyone.
And when I got there a week later, Donald Trump, a week after he was shot in the head, nothing. The whole place was cleaned up and scrubbed.
The roof was scraped, washed, cleaned, everything was done. So no traces at all. The question is why?
Was it so strange to watch? And we talked about it in detail in our documentary, which is still relevant today. I'm really proud of it, about everything that was available at that time, and we showed the extreme circumstances that led to President Trump being shot. And this was something that was puzzling for us and for the snipers who were working there with us, because we arrived there with trained snipers. This is that the security protocol for this event was deliberately compromised to ensure that if something bad happened, it would happen. And it couldn't. We focused on the watchtower. Here you can see the water tower, which provides surveillance. Everybody knows that. That was the principle of waging war and establishing dominance in a secured area, whether on the battlefield or in a security protocol. That you need a place to observe what's happening, to see all the available threats. There was also no one on the water tower, so that, as you could easily spot Thomas Kruks, you could have taken out Thomas Kruks several minutes before he even saw Donald Trump. Not only was there no one there, by the way, this is our drone footage, not only was there no one on top, but there was also no drone coverage. The Secret Service showed no interest in monitoring the sky, in watching for potential threats to Donald Trump.
You know, of course I knew these details, but when you put them all together, it gives you chills. Such a cold sweat.
Thomas Kruks subtitles. Thomas Kruks encountered security forces that day. Thomas Kruks tried to enter the rally with a rangefinder. Thomas Kruks launched his drone over the rally just as the anti-drone system failed. You know, it's that Thomas Kruks was conducting his own reconnaissance with a drone to try to kill Donald Trump. And how he was able to do it, even the most incompetent idiots in the federal government don't know that you need to have anti-drone technology. That's right, when the president is about to speak, or the presumed president. Remember, at that time, Donald Trump was at his peak. I mean, it's not like Donald Trump was behind. People assumed that President Trump would win. At that time, when
the assassination attempt was being prepared, so Thomas Kruks, launched his drone. Exactly at the moment when the anti-drone program shut down. So like they kind of told him, ready, launch, and then they shut down the program. And that means Thomas Kruks is going for his gun.
of course, Thomas Kruks, who wasn't let through security after they found a rangefinder and a drone on him. When he tried to get into the rally, he was flagged by the local police. And he still managed to get in. Here's a photo right before that. He managed to get onto the roof, and then amazingly, when he was on the roof, there was a sniper position there that could have easily taken out Thomas Kruks. Both of those snipers were pulled back. Why the hell did that happen? Both!
The snipers who were facing that rooftop were pulled back. I'll repeat it since it's unclear. Both snipers who were watching this area in this direction, because, snipers are positioned on the left, on the right, and so on, they were called back. I think they were from the local team, not the one brought in from Washington.
The official version is that they were locked out of the building, but who controlled access with the key cards? How the hell? The local sniper team wasn't watching, even if they weren't on the water tower. Why didn't they see Tom? They were sitting right in the window. I know we have that footage somewhere. They were sitting there during Eli Crane's recording. They were sitting right in the window. They could see Thomas Kruks just taking them out. People were on the ground. People were standing below, watching Thomas Kruks, filming him and saying there's a sniper on the roof. It was all so obvious. The whole operation was so obvious. So many coincidences and miracles had to happen for Thomas Kruks to be able to take those shots. When
Kruks climbed onto the roof, people below saw him and started shouting, "Hey, there's a sniper on the roof!" And the staff of the Presidential Security Service, who were responsible for monitoring that area, including that roof, had been withdrawn. And they were...
This is the video where there was a sniper's nest on the roof from where you would have a good view. Here it is, right here, like this. This is the video where the local police had a sniper position from which they could have taken out Thomas Kruks. Give me the footage from the ground. I want the footage from the ground. This is my footage for Pruder, guys. I want the footage from the ground from people filming Thomas Kruks. You can see him because I was on that roof. You can see him as he walks down that corridor here in this middle section, right in front of the roof line. This easement area, you could see how he kind of falls and how north-y. And again, since he's not a particularly athletic person, he kind of awkwardly makes his way through it. People filmed this from the ground. Show and follow the ascent as it happens. You could see right here there was a sniper. This is a sniper position. Both of these local police officers could have absolutely taken out Thomas Kruks. Plenty of time to neutralize the threat. Listen to this. Listen. That one on the roof. Look, you need to get something nice there. Trump says, listen. They'll never show you. It's Atlantic. Great way to keep going. Sir, yes, someone on the roof. Look, Gary, he's right there.
Oh.
Yeah, do you see him? Right there. Do you see him? He's lying down. Do you see him? Yeah, he's lying down.
All right.
No.
Oh, Jesus, these are others. Son, I'm here with you, fighting with all my strength.
To get
a Senate seat for Texas and to
make sure that
we retake the White House. If we do, we'll make America better than ever before. We'll make it great.
Hundreds of people were filming Thomas Kruks. Look at him. Look at that. Look right there. Look at him. Look at that. What I'm saying is, unlike, damn, I don't want to do this. I hate doing this because it's so fresh. Dude, unlike Charlie, where we really have so many questions about it, but we really don't have any video of the shooter at all. Shockingly and frighteningly, we have very little footage of the shooter and their actions that day. And I pray that all of this will be presented in court and that it will be beyond any doubt and provable. I pray for that. But we don't have any such records at all. With President Trump, there are simply no questions about how Thomas Kruks ended up where he did. He was allowed to do it.
The conclusion is correct. He was allowed, he was helped to get on the roof to bring the rifle and shoot. Someone was guiding him, someone was clearing the way for him. I suspect these are the same people who used to organize assassinations abroad, regime changes, the killing of unwanted political opponents, and now they've brought that experience to their own land.
Look at the number of people. Look at the number of people, dozens, maybe hundreds, who just saw the shooter, who were filming the shooter. Look at this woman. This is a woman in a Harley Davidson t-shirt. Look at this. Look at how obvious it is. Well, and
Now to what Tayker Karlson found.
This is a video that the FBI tried to make sure you didn't see. They are from the Google Drive account of Tomas Kruks, the man who appeared at the fair in Butler County, Pennsylvania on July 13, 2024 and tried to kill the frontrunner Donald Trump.
And look at what has happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. This chart is a bit outdated. It's a couple of months old. If you really want to see something that's been said, take a look at what happened.
Get down, get down, get down, get down. That day, Thomas Kruks was a quarter-inch away from destroying this country, and yet a year and a half later, we still know almost nothing about him or why he did it. This
Is astonishing. Nothing, well, almost. Subtitles created by Dimatozo. Nothing.
That's because, for some reason, the FBI, even the current FBI, doesn't want us to know. At first, their investigation, the FBI claimed that Thomas Kruks acted alone and that he was a virtual ghost online with no presence whatsoever. Their only substantial claim about Kruks's motives was that he was right-wing. We learned this from FBI Deputy Director Paul Abai, who told Congress this just 1 month after the assassination attempt.
Something recently discovered that I want to share is a social media account believed to be connected to the shooter, dating back to around 2019-2020. More than 700 comments were posted from this account. Some of these comments, if they do ultimately belong to the shooter, appear to reflect anti-Semitic and anti-immigration themes, promote political violence, and are described as extreme in nature.
The social media account that Abate described was Kruks's comments on YouTube. When the FBI made that statement, we had to take their word for it. We didn't have the opportunity, but now we do. In September, we got hundreds of comments from Thomas Kruks's YouTube account. Since then, we've made great efforts to verify their authenticity. Now we can confidently say that they are genuine. These comments were indeed written by Thomas Kruks. But while Kruks's comments are interesting and provide a lot of insight into why he did it, that's not the whole story. The other story, actually much more significant, is about the government, the Department of Justice, and the FBI, who hid from the public what they know about Thomas Kruks. The purpose of this report is to reveal the details of Kruks's social media accounts and to answer a number of key questions. Why is the FBI hiding Kruks's views? Why are they ignoring congressional subpoenas for disclosure of information? Why are they pretending there's nothing to consider here? And most of all, what are they hiding?
Why is today's FBI, that is under the leadership of Kesha Patello, a Trump ally, hiding the external truth? So, the fact that he's hiding something, why is he hiding something from us? After all, our president was shot at, so Kesha should be interested too. Patello is sure that revealing the secrets led to the killers appearing. Get ready to fill Kumuna and Spartakona. Off the Nushim. WooCommerce. The television budget didn't mourn the death at that very moment. On the platform where they tried to shoot Trump.
The digital comments we received were published between 2019 and 2020, when Thomas Kruks was between 15 and 17 years old. They show two things. First, Thomas Kruks was not a secretive loner who kept his violent plans hidden. In fact, it was the opposite. For years before he showed up in Butler, Kruks left a detailed digital trail of violent threats, including calls for killings and political violence. Second, they show a man who struck. He began as a radical Trump supporter, but his views on the president changed completely during COVID. The FBI lied about this fact and pretended that Kruks was right-wing. At 11:35 p.m. on July 19, 2019, in response to a Microsoft and the National Broadcasting Corporation video, Kruks wrote, quote, Ilhan, Omar, and other invaders, and they honestly should be killed and their dead bodies sent back. At 1:17 a.m. on July 20, 2019, Kruks commented on a cable news network video. He called Donald Trump the literal definition of patriotism. 7 hours later, he commented on a Microsoft and the National Broadcasting Corporation video. He wrote, I hope for a quick, painful death for all the disgusting immigrants and congresswomen who oppose Trump, who don't deserve anything this country has given them. That evening, in another Microsoft and the National Broadcasting Corporation video, he wrote that every Trump-hating Democrat deserves to be beheaded and displayed as a warning to the world about messing with America. Such comments continued for several months and became increasingly violent. The next day, Kruks responded to a Columbia Broadcasting System evening news video about the squad, saying the following, quote, This is going to be blatantly racist, but I hope Trump kills those people. Kruks publicly demanded a dictatorship and said Spanish-speaking people should be put back in their place. He warned that if Democrats win in 2020, they won't last long because, unlike them, we have many guns. Kruks commented that 50 million Americans with Armalite 15 OS could quickly handle any government blockades protecting the White House. He often referenced Mao Zedong's famous phrase, real political power comes from the barrel of a gun. On September 30, 2019, Kruks responded to comments about a possible civil war, saying, Most rioters don't bring assault rifles and body armor like we would. We wouldn't go to the streets, we'd go to Washington. At that moment, a user named HyperPandas responded, saying, Law enforcement will be grateful to you for gathering and making yourself so noticeable. It'll make your arrest easier. Kruks said, The cops can't arrest me if they're all dead, adding that even someone untrained with an Armalite 15 is dangerous. Do you think Adam Lanza or any other school shooter trained? No. If you go to that YouTube page today, you can still see identical contextual comments and people referencing Thomas Kruks, including one user who wrote the following, You are threatening to shoot government officials on YouTube. I really hope the FBI is monitoring social media for dangerous lunatics. This exchange is still on Internet Archive sites. Didn't the FBI see this before the shooting? Hard to believe. In different cases, Kruks openly said things like Mueller should be hanged along with the other Democrats involved in this witch hunt. And I always thought that being a patriot means lining up a bunch of socialist Jews like those who booed Trump and blowing their useless brains out of the Armalite. I
guarantee that Federal Bureau of Investigation noticed these statements. They have a program for detecting such things. They could have stopped them. There are different ways to stop it. Threaten, arrest, or something else. But it seems they decided to use this psychologically unstable person for their own purposes. That is to convert Kruks into hatred for Trump.
And yet, at the beginning of 2020, Kruks seemed to have radically changed. On January 23 that year, he called out Trump's stupidity and mocked the deep state concept. He suggested that it was a code word used by Trump supporters to mean, quote, anyone who disagrees with the right. Suddenly, he sounded like a Microsoft and the National Broadcasting Corporation commentator. In February 2020, he called Trump supporters too zombified to realize how stupid you are. You guys sometimes sound like a cult. That same day, he called Trump and his supporters racists. It was an incredible change. In April, at the height of the coronavirus lockdowns, Kruks wrote, quote, it seems you don't understand that sometimes public safety is more important than your personal rights. You're not willing to isolate one member of your family to save the rest. If that's the case, you're not a patriot and you're not protecting anything. Around this time, the new left-liberal version of Thomas Kruks became very critical of conservative media. At some point, he said, quote, Attending a Chinese New Year celebration in America does not put you at risk of contracting the coronavirus, because strangely enough, viruses don't spread through dew, as Tucker Carlson probably told you. In May, as officials nationwide revised electoral systems for mail-in voting, Kruks called Republicans' voter fraud concerns ignorant.
A complete turnaround. How, why, what influenced him? Who influenced him?
The FBI hasn't mentioned him publicly, although they certainly know about his existence. Just a few days after the shooting, someone took a screenshot of Tepes's YouTube account page, even though he had very few subscribers. How traceable is he online? His username is currently listed on a foreign Antifa site. These websites link him to the Northern Resistance Movement, which was designated as a terrorist group by the State Department. That's all we know. However, we do know that Kruks' online trail suddenly disappears after his encounter with this mysterious figure, Willie Tepes. Regardless of who Willie Tepes is or was, what his motives might have been, or who he might have been working for, there's no doubt that Kruks was ready to be recruited by someone from early 2019 to mid-2020 when his political views were changing. Kruks searched for Trump online over 700 times and also researched Jackie Ruby, who killed Lee Harvey Oswald. He then looked up things like craziest chemical reactions, cars running over protesters, and best places for mass shootings. El Paso mass shooting, Trump's civil war, reaction to the Orlando shooting, firing an Armalite 15 as fast as possible, fertilizer bomb, how to make napalm, how to make a Molotov cocktail, mass shooting in Canada, Oklahoma City bombing, and the sniper in the Dallas shooting. He also searched for the American Nazi Party, the German national anthem from 1933-1945, Hitler's speeches with subtitles, neo-Nazis, and the quote, "Why gays should be removed."
Gentlemen, let me remind you about the bell. Click it right now. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe. But now, so that our channel rating goes up and our video spreads better, please hit the bell and like.
So, here you have an unstable, troubled, possibly mentally ill young man with a long history of publicly expressing violence. The FBI was clearly aware of his existence, and then at the very end of his years of public comments promoting violence, there is an exchange with a mysterious figure connected to a group that we know is being tracked by the United States State Department. Come. At the same time, Thomas Kruks was making these searches and posting violent threats against public figures on YouTube. The FBI was contracting with private surveillance technology firms to use mass data collection tools that would monitor social media for people like Thomas Kruks. It's hard to imagine that Thomas Kruks, who was making these posts openly and under his own name, wasn't identified and thoroughly investigated by federal law enforcement agencies. It's truly unimaginable. What do we know? Well, we know that the FBI had access to these comments on YouTube, and instead of giving us valuable information about them, helping us understand why Thomas Kruks did what he did, they used selective reading of these comments to lie about what Thomas Kruks was thinking. 2.5 weeks after the attack on July 30, a source familiar with the investigation told cable news network, quote, "Federal investigators are examining a YouTube account possibly linked to Kruks, where the user expressed support for political violence, as well as anti-Semitic and anti-immigration themes." Well, of course, it wasn't just possibly linked to Thomas Kruks, since the FBI knew perfectly well that it was Thomas Kruks' account. There was never any doubt about that. On the same day, the then FBI deputy director made the same dishonest statement to Congress. The prior week, FBI Director Christopher Wray publicly questioned if Trump had even been wounded.
Regarding former President Trump, there is some question about whether it was a bullet or a fragment that, hit him in the ear.
In February 2025, the New York Post reported, quote, "The FBI obstructed efforts to solve the mystery of why Thomas Matthew Kruks, who left no manifesto, did what he did." The newspaper said this left local law enforcement, former friends, classmates, and teachers of Kruks frustrated. The level of lies and obstruction is unknown. It's shocking. Less than a month after the shooting, Congressman Clay Higgins from Louisiana, a former police officer, went to Butler to conduct his own investigation of what happened. Upon arrival, he found the FBI permitted Kruks' body to be cremated 10 days after July 13. This was not known to the public until Higgins arrived in Butler on August 5, when the coroner told the congressman, quote, he would never have given Kruks' body to the family for cremation or burial without special permission from the FBI. Kruks' cremation timing is notable. The day Kruks' body was cremated coincided with the start of the House Homeland Security and Oversight Committee's investigation into the shooting. The fact that the body was cremated made it impossible for investigators outside the FBI to verify the coroner's report and the autopsy results. It's impossible to conduct a new toxicology analysis because the body no longer exists. According to Higgins, quote, this action by the FBI can only be described as an obstruction to any subsequent investigation. Another remarkable detail is that photographs taken the day after the shooting show an FBI agent watering the spot where Kruks died. Senior intelligence officials and sources in Congress told us that this is very strange and that usually the FBI hires third-party contractors to clean up the crime scene. But in this case, they did it themselves, leaving no blood or tissue for others to analyze. In the photo, the agent's shirt shows he's with the Technical Hazards Response Unit, which gathers forensic evidence contaminated by hazardous materials. After the shooting, the FBI sent Kruks' phone to the Bureau's lab in Quantico, Virginia. The agents unlocked it in under 40 minutes using Celebrite technology from Israel. According to the report, FBI employees who served under President Joe Biden gained access to Kruks' phone, computer, and his encrypted messengers in Belgium, New Zealand, and Germany. Nevertheless, none of the online activities discovered by the FBI were mentioned in any way in the final congressional report published in December 2024. Why don't we know anything about that guy in Butler yet? What's happening? That was a good question, a question most people thought the new administration would answer. A few weeks after returning to office, Donald Trump told Miranda Devon from New York Port, on Friday, I ordered the Secret Service to provide me with all the information about my 2 potential assassins. You survived 2 assassination attempts, including being shot in Butler. There are many.
Disappointments because we still don't know anything about that shooter in Butler, and we don't know about his communications. We are constantly being obstructed when we ask questions about this. Do you have any disappointments? Will we get transparency? Will we learn the whole story?
It's very interesting because we have great people. I think Pam is incredible, and I think Cash is incredible, and they're doing a great job. They're being recognized for their excellent work.
But you're president, aren't you?
Can you find out? They eventually, no, I know. I rely on my people to tell me what it is, but...
His people insist nothing is there and show no interest in learning more. Why is there so little information on the attempts to assassinate President Trump?
There are 2 reasons.
Open.
Ongoing court cases, but we personally invested our time to make sure we explored all possible international connections with terrorism and adversaries. And we were both at Quantico, we both conducted lab tests, we both saw the analysis of explosives, we both saw the firearms and physically held them. We are fully involved in these investigations.
You'll be surprised by what you learned.
But, you know, Maria Cash doesn't joke around. We were personally informed in detail about every aspect, every nuance of this case. One of them is currently in court, so out of respect for the case, it would probably be more appropriate if I kept silent about it. However, I'm not going to tell people what they want to hear. I'll tell you the truth. And whether you like it or not, it's up to you to decide if there was something explosive there. Honestly, considering my background as a Secret Service agent and my personal friendship as a director with the president, give me one logical, reasonable reason why we wouldn't have to. If you can think of one, there isn't. In some cases, what you're looking for just isn't there.
What? There's nothing. One person climbed onto the roof by himself and fired and launched a drone, and the security left on their own. And they made 100 mistakes, but he, miraculously, just happened to get through. Climbed up, fired, they washed the roof, burned the body, and there's nothing. And here's Trump's son, Eric.
What are you
telling us?
I'm absolutely not satisfied. I'm absolutely not satisfied. Did you have a man with a modern rifle? A modern rifle with a scope at a distance of 130 yards? Who shot at the former commander-in-chief of the United States, and a man who, by all accounts, was supposed to become the future commander-in-chief at that time? 8 weeks later, they tried to kill my father at his Palm Beach County golf course, which I run daily. I'm absolutely not satisfied that we only have one photo of this shooter. In the photo, he looks like a 14-year-old. We know nothing about him. We know nothing about him. Right, and I am. I'm absolutely not satisfied with the outcome, and I think a lot of people in America aren't satisfied with the outcome. And I think we'd better figure this out.
Well, do you understand anything? Trump's son can't get anything from Kershaw, sweated the FBI director. Information about who organized the assassination attempt on his father, the President of the United States.
But first, they needed to answer these questions. Was Thomas Kruks known to the FBI before the shooting? Was he known to local law enforcement before the shooting? And if not, why? Who is Vili Tepes, and was he known to federal law enforcement? Is Vili Tepes connected to any violent organizations? Is he connected to any governments? And if so, did the FBI have its own people inside those organizations at that time? If Kruks wasn't known to authorities before the shooting, how did he post hundreds of extremist comments under his real name between 2019 and 2020 without being noticed by law enforcement or intelligence agencies at a time when we know they were monitoring social media? Were these comments, including specific threats to kill particular government officials, ever reported on YouTube? Other users complained about them. Was YouTube aware? Why is the FBI releasing this information, a subpoena after the trial, when there is no trial? Why? Did an FBI agent from the Technical Threat Response Unit pour water on the crime scene the day after the attack? That seems very strange. What happened on the roof of the American Glass Research Building in the 10 seconds after Kruks' last shot, before he was killed by the Secret Service? Does the FBI have surveillance footage showing Thomas Kruks shooting that day? Was the FBI present at the autopsy conducted by the forensic medical examiner? Are there any blood samples left? Can they be examined by outside experts? When Congress requested the autopsy, did the FBI restrict what the examiner could report to Congress? When did the FBI give permission for Kruks' body to be cremated? Did they preserve tissue samples, brain tissue samples, spinal cord samples, or cerebrospinal fluid samples? Sources in law enforcement told us that in a typical investigation of a crime like this, it would be normal to preserve all of these samples. If the FBI didn't do this, then why? And who made the decision to destroy what could have been important evidence in an attempted murder case? FBI agents visited the shooting range Thomas Kruks used. Who are these agents? And did any of them ever have contact with Thomas Kruks? Who exactly did he train with? And why can't we find this out? Were there any drugs Thomas Kruks might have taken that didn't show up in the toxicology report for some reason? On what specific date? FBI agents stopped investigating Thomas Kruks' online activity. Why did former FBI Deputy Director Paul Abbott suggest in Congress that Kruks was right-wing when that's clearly not the case? Was the FBI aware of Kruks' public comments before the shooting, many of which were openly violent and included specific attempts to kill government officials? Who did Thomas Kruks contact before the attack? What does his disposable phone show? And actually, why did he have a disposable phone and encrypted foreign email accounts? Which officials are trying to connect Iran to the shooting? Why did the FBI initially claim that Kruks had no digital footprint, when the FBI had plenty of evidence, hundreds and hundreds of comments from his digital activity? And what about the other dozen accounts that the FBI clearly had access to? How long had Thomas Kruks been planning the assassination attempt? If there's nothing there, if they're telling you it's just a lone wolf who showed no signs that he might do this, what's stopping the FBI from at least providing the facts to Congress?
Gentlemen, all of this is shocking. When Biden was in power, we understood why things were being hidden from us. But here. I don't understand this yet. There must be some reason for it. Maybe someone who's, smart and insightful can explain it to the rest? In their comments, the FBI, of course, responded to Tucker's broadcast, and in a series of their statements, they said that an investigation is underway, and that's why nothing is being published. What investigation? It's been a year and a half. Does that mean Trump? Maybe he wants to make it public later, at some specific moment, at a certain point in the country's political life. Because to believe that, in my opinion, Bandy Kashpadal is hiding something from his boss, well, I can't, yes, from us back and forth, but from his boss. But he's hiding something, and he's hiding it with Epstein. Something unclear. I immediately rule out that they're traitors. Yeah, there's pressure on them. What is it, what? But then Trump called and asked why. Why is nothing being published? Why don't I know anything? And as soon as he starts to suspect that someone is doing something wrong, that person will say goodbye to their position. For Trump, it's easy. You're fired. Yes, you're right there. Goodbye. All right then. Of course, so to speak, the world is full of surprises. And most likely, there's some thought behind it. For some reason, for some purpose. Yes, if the stars are lit, it means someone needs it. That's right, there was such a poem. That's all. Goodbye, ladies and gentlemen, until we meet again. Yes. So, tomorrow is Sunday at 10 a.m. Los Angeles time. I have a live stream where I spend half an hour sharing my thoughts and philosophical stories about how to live, and then there will be questions, answers, and discussions. We'll be thinking and guessing together with you, so I really invite everyone at 10 a.m. Los Angeles time. That's 10 plus 3, so 1 p.m. in New York, and that's 12 p.m. in Chicago. So that's 8 p.m. in Israel, and I think it's 8 p.m. in Kyiv. Yes, so now you can figure it out. That's all. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.